Welcome to another great installment of Progress, Not Perfection. I'm Dan Willcox, your host for the day. I'm going to build a tutorial sequence here for what I like to call Fayes Falls. I went to Valdosta, Georgia and took this class from the incredible Ross Instructor, Faye Fletcher. And I think we called it Quiet Waterfall Reflection. But since I learned this from Faye, and it was a spectacular experience, and I love teaching this one, I like to call it Fayes Falls. So this is video number 1 for Fayes Falls. I'm going to pause this a couple times, and I'll tell you why. I don't like to do, there's no editing in our videos. What you see is what you get, because I really want you to know that you can do this method of painting. But I need to paint the underneath part black first with the Bob's Black gesso, and then we're going to do the tree parts with acrylic gesso, and we'll use the black and the gray, and then we'll do the rocks under the water. We're going to let that dry completely, and then we're going to put a layer of clear, start with the blue sky and then build forward, just like Bob would do in all his other videos. So I'm going to pause for a second, swap the canvas around. Actually, I can do that real quick while the camera's rolling. So there's our finished Fayes Falls, and I'll be starting on just a blank canvas. If you're a super sharp eye, you may see there's a pencil line right there, and I doinked it a little bit when bringing it home. This was just a reserve one I had from a class that we were doing sunrise seascape, so that's just a pencil line that'll get painted right over. So let me pause for just a second, and we'll keep going. All right, so that was a pretty brief pause. I've just got my black gesso all set, and I've just put that on a just a little Dixie plate. I don't want to hold it all straight up and have it run all the way down the plate there. But all I'm going to be using to apply this most of the way is just a 2-inch foam brush. I order these by the case from Amazon. You can get them anywhere. You can even get these at Lowe's or Home Depot. You can get them at Hobby Lobby. And really, we're going to have that land kind of about here, but now we just need to cover this with black so it's a beautiful background, because color does such an amazing job jumping off these black canvases first. It's just, oh, the play between light colors, dark colors, and having this dark on here first. Oh, just magic. You'll see. You'll see. Give this one a go. This is one anybody can have fun with, have some success with. We'll just use a couple of the brushes when we get going. I think we'll probably use a 1-inch brush. We'll use a palette knife some. We'll use a script liner brush a little bit, but there's just not a lot to think about. You just got to go for it. And don't worry about covering absolutely all this up either. Having a little bit of that gray canvas still peeking through is just fine. I do like to have the edges all dark. Personal preference there. Do as you like. You probably saw, if you looked close in that example I gave you, the one I did up with Faye, we actually taped our edges in that one, which I do a lot. If you've taken a class with me here locally, we will often tape those edges. That makes transporting it a little easier. And now let's switch over for a second. I'm just going to ball up a paper towel. I really like to use the super cheap paper towels, the brown, old, crusty, hard ones you used to find, at least when I was in school. That's what was in the bathrooms, just because they don't have a pattern to them. It's just basically recycled paper. And this, don't just do it random, but we're just putting in some background. So this is kind of, think about a forest, think about trees, and just go for it. We just need some color on the canvas here. Don't want to cover the whole thing up. That's why I stopped where I did with the 1-inch or the 2-inch foam brush there on that as we went. But come from side to side. That'll help. Different hand positions, different pressure on the paper towel here. And do this quickly. Get your brain out of the way. Don't do this slow. But don't do it just whacking it in randomly either. That will probably frustrate you, and you may not like your result quite as much. Good idea to make the corners a little darker. But touch gently now once you're going on a second layer, because then you'll keep that distant light underneath. Got my paper towel a little fly away there if you saw that. But it is a lovely late November day here in Central Florida. It's actually the Monday right after Thanksgiving. I think that makes today, it's today the 26th. Monday the 26th of November. Does that work out right? I honestly don't know off the top of my head what the date is, and that's all right. Okay, so that's really all you need there. And this will dry pretty quick, since this was just a really ready to go canvas right out of the box, unwrapped other than that pencil mark there. So now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of Bob's gray gesso to my plate, just so I can do the light side and the dark side of the trees at the same time. Same with the rocks. So just adding a little gray gesso. It doesn't take much. You can see I got way too much black on my plate to use there. And yeah, we've got a nice little background in there. A lot of that'll just look like foliage as we get going. I've got a little cup, cheap little cup of water. I'm going to thin down a little bit of this black, so I'm just going to put a few drops of water right next to the black so I can stir it. And most of the time I would use some of my old script liner brush or an old filbert brush, but I don't like to use these in acrylic, so I don't like using those in gesso. So I'm just going to use some cheapy brushes that I picked up. I literally bought, I think it was 100 of these brushes. It came in a bundle. It wasn't these green ones, but it was these blue ones. So little script liner brush. So it doesn't matter if students let acrylic dry in there. I'm not too worried about it. That some of it will, some of these brushes bite the dust after every class. So I just want to put in some tree ideas of some trees. So just go for it. It really doesn't matter. You wouldn't be able to see all the tree trunks in your forest. So just putting in the idea here. Just go for it. Don't get all twisted up over the shape of your trees. If you get a little bumpy in your hand, I've had quite a bit of coffee this morning, so I got a little shake to my hand. You can put in some bigger, more prominent trees. We'll do some up close ones that'll have some more branches on it, but we just need some trees here. It's just going to give us the idea. We're going to have this beautiful waterfall, some rocks under the water down here. Excuse me. So there's really, again, no reason to get all worked up and worried about what your trees look like, what the shapes are, or any of that. So you could have one come across the others if you want. That kind of just pushes everything back, gives you some distance, because guess what? Trees fall in the forest, don't they? They grow towards the light. Just grow towards the light. Now, if you take your brush and load it, you can get both sides with the dark and then go one side through the gray, one side through, well, I messed that up. Let's fix that. Always have yourself a roll of paper towels handy. This brush is, so I've just got, let's just try one side with the dark, and I'm going to go through the other side with the gray. So I've got gray on one side, black on the other, and now I can do both sides of the tree at the same time. So these trees I want closer to our light source in the middle. We can, well, I'm going to fix that because I kind of did that backwards for the way I meant to. That lighter side needs to be on the inside, doesn't it? So let's just kind of, just, see, you can't make a mistake. Can't make a mistake. So we just got a giant tree standing up here at the top of our falls. That'll be fine. You can add more branches to it if you want to add some dark. And have these branches go every which way, just like branches do. Some come off this side of the tree, some would come off the back side over there. You wouldn't see all of them, just give it the idea. Maybe your trees had a few. Oh, it's got a tough life out here by these falls that we're doing. So there, you get the idea with that. Using your brush, even in this short time that we're going to switch over to use the script liner brush, I would highly recommend to you that you wipe out that brush real good, dunk it in some water, and then wipe it out again. Because boy, you let acrylic paint dry in your brushes, you're going to have a sad, sad rest of the discovery process when you go back to that brush and see how hard it gets, and likely just needs to be retired. All right, so I'm going to switch to the little brush, get it nice and wet. Just going to spin it, spin it, spin it, spin it, spin it right into some of that thinned down black. Hope you can see that pretty good there. Now let's just put in a few little trees here. Just a few little, you can have some shake and dance in your hand. Again, don't worry about this. We're going to put a few more leaves when we come in with the dark. Put a few things in front of this big one so it just looks set back there a little bit. Just go for it. Just a few indications here. Just lower foliage in the forest if you like. Maybe there's some fat leafy things, some grassy kind of things you can make out where we're going to have our waterfall. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If you really want to have some branchy things you can see, don't forget we're going to cover most of these up with some leaves once we put some oil, clear oil on here, and start putting color on and really having fun with this. This is fun now, but this is wonderful practice. Oh, I wanted to share that with you. We are putting together a series that I hope to get on the calendar for the Chelsea Art Center here in Ocala, possibly in December, depending on the calendar availability. With all the other awesome classes going on, being the end of November, I may have missed my window of opportunity to get on that calendar for December, and that's okay. We'll get it on in January. Barbara is so wonderful to work with. But practice sessions. So we'll do different brushes. You know, one day we'll do practicing sky and clouds and waters, and do a couple different things. We'll practice with, the fan brush and say the 1-inch brush to do different types of trees. So I've gotten that great feedback from a few classes, and also some folks in person at classes that they'd really love to do some practice sessions. And I just think that's brilliant. So thank you for that idea, and thank you for sharing that, because we are going to add that to the rotation for sure. So that's really all we need to do for the background trees. If you really want to, and you just got to keep piddling, hey, I get that feeling. So you could go back to your other, whatever brush you put those in with. And if you just wanted to put a little bit of light side on them, well, just touch in some gray here and there, wherever you think light might hit. Might just give it some nice dimension. Might just add a layer. Don't do a lot of this, just some. Just the idea. Don't overdo. Just like if you were highlighting an evergreen tree, it gets to feeling good when it works, and all of a sudden you've gobbled up all your dark. Well, don't do that. And if you do, you got good practice. Come back in, put in some more dark. Just like I fixed that one. Maybe that's still not dark enough for you on this side. All right, well, let's darken that side a little bit. We'll just kind of pull those together. See how you can just change it? You change your mind, just change it. That's all you got to do. If you don't like that tree at all, cover it up. You'll cover it up as we go. So you can let that side be lighter. Just tap, 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 tap. Nothing to it. But let's put some beautiful rocks in here. I'm going to point to it in the one that I did up with Faye, because I really like how those turned out. So excuse me for a sec. I'm going to grab and just hold this in front of the canvas for you. I'll try and hold it super, super still. We're going to put these rocks in now, and that's the part we're going to have to wait to dry. What we just did were these tree trunks that you can see way off in the distance, the black and gray. But now we just need to come down here to this bottom part and kind of sneak in. See how it's narrower there? And they get wider, wider, wider coming at us? That just helps build us that illusion of depth. Always building the illusion, playing back and forth between light and dark. So I like to start with a fresh, reasonably clean brush. I'm going to get dark on one side, gray on the other, So dark on the bottom, gray on the top, and then just kind of make a curved motion with your hand and see what you get. And if you're happy with it, cool, keep it. And if you're not, redo it. So you can just kind of do a little curve. You can kind of hold your hand sideways if you want. Maybe you got a bigger rock here. And careful making too much of a pattern here. If you make the same little shape, it'll drive you crazy later. So go both directions. Pick up some more dark, some more light. Keep the lighter side up towards the top, because that's the part you would see. And just kind of dunk, 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 dunk. You got to make the sound effects. You got to make weird sounds. Don't worry about people thinking you're weird. Painters are supposed to be a little different. One of my favorite Bob sayings of all time. You don't have to be crazy to do this, but it helps. I love that. I feel like somehow he had me in mind when he said that. So I love that. And if you get a little sides too bright, okay, just sneak in with some dark. No pressure here. Just have a good time. Try to generally work from further away towards you. That just helps perspective as it's getting down here. Let's do a few gigantic ones. I'm going to pause the video here in just a second on the recording. And I actually have 2 appointments I've got to go attend midday here locally. So I'm going to probably have to stop the video and come back and finish it, but it will still be 0 editing to the process. You will see exactly how all of this magic happens. See, now I'm just pushing in some little pebbly looking things, letting the shape of the brush kind of help me out. I just want a few different looking things, just so it's not all uniform. That is one thing I have fought my entire just over, well, sneaking up on 3.5 years, I guess, painting experience, is fighting uniformity. It's just my background, I think, with math and numbers, and I like process and order. I'm not always great at following it, but I do like it. And so I like to do a few different kind of things there. And well, let's just have a few big old rocky doos to kind of finish us off here. Down here where our water will finish coming towards us. And there we go. Maybe we'll have a few tiny little few things sneaking in here and there. Up near what'll be the shore, we'll put in a nice water line and all. And let's always take a step back, take a look at it. Great, that's going to work. So maybe I'm going to do one more big rock on each side just to kind of bookend us in here. And you can make these any shape you want. And if you don't like this curved shape, well, what do rocks look like in your world? That's the way you make them look. I just hope to give you a few good ideas that I've been fortunate enough to have shared with me. Show you what I do to change them. If you get any super big areas, that's going to take a long time to dry. So you might want to sneak in and just smooth those down a little. But it won't take too long. Great, so like I said, I'm going to pause the video for now. This will be the close of session 1 for Fayes Falls. Let's see, how long did we go? Not quite 20 minutes. So once this is dry, get ready with your next step. Let me show you what we're going to do. When all the acrylic is completely dry, we're going to do a tiny, super thin, super thin, even coat of liquid clear. And I mean, even on a 16 by 20 canvas like this, it will only take just barely the tips of a regular 1-inch brush to spread around a great thin, even coat. Then we're going to put a little color on there. I think we're going to use, let's use phthalo blue as our background sky color that will sneak in back there. It'll look behind the trees. And then we're going to use the sap green, Might sneak in a little phthalo green just for that bright pop of emerald, and then we'll have the yellows and some titanium white. I'll have a list of the colors and I'll have those on the palette to show you when we get there. So hope this has helped you. Quick recap: black gesso with a 2-inch sponge here at the bottom, balled up paper towel, doing the kind of background leafy looking things. Some version of a small brush, not really as good as a filbert brush, but this is a small flat one, small script liner brush, and then did the rocks in the front. So we'll see you in a bit for segment 2.